Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 2 of Bowling for Dummies. Chapter 2 is called Getting Down to the Basics. So the first thing in here says, Dem to the Rules, Bowling 101. And it says, a game of bowling consists of 10 frames. Your mission in each frame, should you choose to accept it, is to roll your ball down the lane and knock over the 10 pin setting at the end of it. In order for the points to count, the ball must hit the pins directly. Points don't count if the ball jumps out of the gutter or hits the side of the wall and comes back onto the lane, which that really very rarely happens. If either of these scenarios occurs, you have to change the scoring manually because the computer does not know that those points don't count. Ask the center staff to help you change the scoring. Or if you bowl in leagues, tournaments, stuff like that, and you know how to do it, you can do it yourself. You have 2 throws in each frame to hit all the pins. After your first throw, any pins you knock down are automatically swept away by a bar known as the sweep. While the sweep removes the falling pins, the pins left standing are automatically lifted up and out of the way by the pin setter. They are then placed back onto the lane for the next shot. And then it says here, note, sometimes the pins that don't reset correctly for your second throw of the frame. We'll tell you on how to handle this and other mechanical difficulties later in this chapter, which is a good thing. After you've completed your 2 tries, your turn is over for that frame and your score is recorded. The next time you bowl, all 10 pins are set up again. Each pin you knock down is worth 1 point. If you knock down all the pins after rolling the ball twice, that's called a spare. And it gives you 1 opportunity to score bonus points. Knocking down all 10 pins on the first throw of the frame means you bowled a strike, the best you can do in that frame. When you strike, your turn that frame is over. But because you did such a great job, you're rewarded with 2 chances to add bonus points to your score. And it has in parentheses, but we'll fill you in on the details surrounding bonus points later in the later keeping score section, which is a good thing. If, however, the ball goes into one of the gutters, that's considered a miss or a gutter ball. You can bowl by yourself, or you can bowl like in a team format like I do. Keeping score. So basically, I'm not going to read the whole keeping score thing because I can explain that better than what this can. But they have in here like it shows like the score and stuff, like like how a person's thing goes. So in order to with keeping score, if you strike all 10 frames, the 10th frame you get 3 shots, strike out. It's 12 shots, basically it gives you 300, which is a perfect game of bowling. Your spare is 10 plus your next ball. Your strike is 10 plus your next 2 shots. So say in the first frame you spare, that's 10. Go to frame 2, say you throw a 9 count, you have a score of 19 in the first frame. Say you strike the first ball, strike the first frame, second frame you go and you strike, and third frame you strike, you will have a score of 30 in your first frame.
Cranberries right here. Beautiful, and it's at the table.
How do you make sure your first holiday hosting won't be your last?
So
Coles, where families come first.
it has like a great boxed area. to where it says foul bowling. Why are the 3 strikes in a row known collectively as a turkey? Supposedly years ago, when bowling scores were lower and strikes were rare, the owner of the bowling alley would give out a turkey to a bowler who achieves 3 consecutive strikes. We don't know whether that actually happened, but that doesn't change the fact that bowling a turkey makes the game exciting. So down here they're doing a walk. So below that they're doing a walk through a frame by frame scoring example. So you figure. So they have it again to where it has a picture. And it says frame 1, Travis knocks down 6 pins initially, but he gets the dreaded gutter ball on the second throw, giving him score 6. And it says on frame 2, he knocks over 5 pins on the first throw and 2 pins on the second throw, for a total of 7 in the second frame, which is then it gives him a running score of 13. And it goes on down the frames to where frame 3 he throws a strike. Frame 4 he knocks down 5 pins on the first throw and 4 on the second one, which then eventually gives him a running score total of 4. Which, if you saw the picture, if you want to like pause the video at the picture, like go back to that picture I showed, pause the video and look at it to see what it's talking about in these frames. And it says he knocked down 3 pins on his first throw of the 5th frame, and then he ended up knocking down the rest, getting a spare. On the 6th frame, he knocked down 8 pins. It says these 8 pins plus the 10 pins in the 5th frame equal 18. And then on the second ball, he knocked down 1 pin, which is only 9 pins, which says now his score is 68. If you want to look at that picture again, like I said, frame 7 and 8, he struck them both. And in frame 9, with him striking, in frame 9, he got a 3 count on his first shot, 2 count on his last shot, but with the way the strike totals go and stuff like that, he has a running score of 111. And in the 10th frame, he scored 8 pins on his first throw, and then he threw a gutter ball on the second one, which gave him a final score of 119. Letting the computer score for you. So nowadays everything is automatic scoring, to where there's a camera down at the end of the lane that reads the pins, stuff like that, tells you what your score is, all that. Back in the day, before they had automatic scoring, you had to keep score by hand, write it on a piece of paper, or like an overhead projector thing that they had, stuff like that. So after talking about all that, it says calculating your bowling average. It says, want to know whether you're improving as a bowler? Keep track of your average. To calculate your bowling average, simply add up the total number of points you scored in each of your past games, and then divide that total by the number of games you bowled. So it says, say you bowled a 90, a 110, and an 84 over the course of 3 games for a total of 284. Divide 284 by 3 games you played to find your average score, which is 94. And then in a later chapter, it goes over averages and covers all that stuff too.
Because Hobby Lobby has hundreds of exclusive decor items for every room in your house.
So here it talks about, this next part, we'll talk about looking at the lanes. This basically gives us a walkthrough of the parts of the lane. You have the approach is what you walk on, you slide on, stuff like that. If you have shoes that slide, house shoes will slide too. You have the lane markers, which they call them lane markers, but we call them the dots and the arrows. Like on your approach, you'll have dots. On the lane, you'll have dots, and you also have arrows. You have the lane itself, and then on the side of the lanes, you have the gutters. And then most places will have it for kids. They'll have like the bumpers where they get pulled up, or they're automatic. And here's a picture to show you that what the stuff is. Now, you probably couldn't see the numbers that are in here, but from approach to foul line, it's 15 feet. Your lane is 60 feet, and then it's 42 feet across. Oh, it continues over for that. You have the foul line, which is that thick black line that divides the approach to the lane. Do not cross that because you can slip and fall and hurt yourself. The sweep, basically you'll see like a bar come down. That's what will sweep away the excess pins. Or like if you leave a spare standing for the set full set, it'll sweep those pins off and stuff like that. And then you have the pins. You have the pin deck is what the pin's set on, and it has areas where the pin can sit on. And then you have your ball return to where your bowling ball sits on. It has air that blows out for you to dry your hand and all that stuff. And then you have where it talks about here, it talks about the dots and the arrows. It says thinking of the dots on the approach as markers that help you figure out where to stand, which in a later on chapter we'll talk about all that. And then it has the arrows, the 7 arrows on the lane or leg targets that point the way your ball should go. And the way they're set up on the lane, they go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And then this next part here talks about pondering pin peculiars. The pin staying in a triangle formation at the end of the lane can be tough to topple. In the sections that follow, we give you an up-close look at the structure of a bowling pin and how the pins are arranged on the deck. So it talks here that bowling pins are 15 inches tall and weigh about 3 pounds 6 ounces and 3 pounds 10 ounces. They're mostly always white with the red stripe or stripes around the neck. Triangle splits and pockets, figuring out pin configuration. It says when you begin a frame, 10 pins are set up in a triangle at the end of the lane, with each pin 12 inches apart from its neighbor. This distance provides enough room so the pins can act like dominoes. One tips or rolls into the other after it hits. And it says each pin has its own number, which there will be a figure, I guess, on the next page that'll show you that. And then the pin in the front, they call it the head pin because it's in front of all of them, but that's number 1 pin. They have a picture here for you to show you the pin numbers and how they're laid out. It says as you become more familiar with the pins, you'll begin to recognize your splits and spares. Soon you'll be saying, oh, that's a 7-10 split, or I left the 4-7 to your bowling buddies. To bowl successfully, you need to know how to hit the pocket, the space between the head pin and the one of the pins in the second row. For right-handed bowlers, the pocket is between the head pin and the 3-pin. For left-handed bowlers, the pocket is between the head pin and the 2-pin. Hitting your respective pocket creates the most pin action and increases your chances for strikes. Now, later on in another chapter, I'll talk more about the pin pockets. Now, the next section here says coping with mechanical difficulties. Your ball won't come back through the ball return. The ball return is designated to automatically send your ball back to you after you throw, but sometimes the bowling ball gets stuck rolling around in the back of the pin deck and you can't enter the ball return. If a minute or two has passed and your ball hasn't reappeared, tell a staff member about the problem. The next one is the ball is stuck in the gutter. Try as you might to prevent this from happening. Sometimes the ball lands in the gutter. If If you can stretch and reach the ball without stepping onto the lane or into the gutter, then it's safe to try and retrieve it. However, if you have to step into the gutter or onto the lane to get your ball, ask the center's management to help you get it back. And please do that. We have too many people at my center that walk out and get it themselves and don't even tell us. The pin setter sets the wrong number of pins or the pins fall down. Perhaps the scenario has already happened to you. You're ready to bowl, but either of the lanes aren't there, or the pins aren't there, or they have fallen being placed on the lane by the pin setter. Press the re-rack button on your scoring console. The re-rack removes the pins and resets them without interfering with your score. Re-rack and reset are two different things. A re-rack provides a completely new set of pins. A reset is when you force the sweep to come down and do its job. Be careful not to hit your reset button when you need a re-rack, or vice versa. If you hit the reset button, the computer takes this to mean that you've completed your throw, and if you haven't thrown, the computer will miscalculate your score as a 0. Always take a moment to make sure you're pressing the correct button. Please make sure you're pressing the correct button. And that's the end of chapter 2. Next video I will read chapter 3 to you, which is titled Heading to the Center. I'd like to thank everybody for watching my channel, and make sure you recommend it to your friends, stuff like that, and have them and make sure to and make sure to tell them to subscribe, stuff like that, and I will see you next time.